certain communities like Robeson County remain invisible and remain sort of the epicenter of all of the harm. Anthropogenic is the term a lot of people use, the anthropogenic harm that is being done to us as an entire human race. Robeson County is one of the USDA's counties of persistent poverty. Robeson County is a place where people economically, infrastructurally, have been placed in positions of immediate suffering. So that takes tolls on your body, that takes tolls on your education, that takes tolls on your domestic life. Rates of violence in this county are sky high, not because people here are more criminally inclined, it's because every sense of safety and wellness around them has been deteriorated to the point of being negligent. To the point where one of the parts of our government, the USDA, actually says, listen, this is a county that has been set up to fail. But nobody wants to talk about it that way. They want us to act like, oh, we have hope, we have a future. Well, we do, but we must address very purposely, in terms of decolonization, we must very purposely address how Robeson County has over centuries been set up to fail and how it continues to exist in those same systems. We're now in the early 21st century beginning to see that this settled land is not equally settled. That chicken farms, that corporate husbandry operations, and also, if I can include this, oil pipelines, all of these things are not equally dispersed between all settler communities. They continue to be pushed into and on top of indigenous Native American communities, especially here in southeastern North Carolina and in eastern North Carolina and Virginia more generally. The chicken houses in Robeson County over the last probably 10 or 15 years have been built behind a tree line. The chicken houses behind me, you can see easily that there's a veil of trees that have been purposely orchestrated to kind of exist around them. Even though you don't see what's hidden behind the trees, you sense the effects of them, you feel the effects, you see the effects. But now, with the increase in industrial chicken farming, the CAFO, so the corporate chicken farms, are less likely to hide the farms from their neighbors. And they're actually buying large plots of land where they place these large, brightly colored chicken houses in the middle of properties that are sitting right upside roads, major thoroughfares in Robeson County, and there's no more hiding. Lumbee people are realizing, well, wait a minute, there are these new farms popping up, and yeah, we're used to chicken farming and hog farming and animal husbandry in general, but these farms are bigger. These chicken houses are much larger, they're much brighter. Not only are they not hidden from us, now they're sort of a feature of our driving through our tribal land, of our indigenous land. What we've noticed is that as we've tested water and as we've tested soil throughout Robeson County after Hurricane Matthew in 2016, after Hurricane Florence in 2018, there's definitely an uptick in nitrogen in the soils around Robeson County and phosphates. And we have noticed over the last 3 or 4 years that there's a relationship, a correlation between the presence of these CAFOs and the water quality and the soil quality in the local area. I've been talking to local educators in Robeson County about just the nuisance of chicken farming operations in Robeson County. The conversations always revolve around flies. The fly, if you will, is a great metaphor for nuisance, right? It buzzes around your ear, it's around your head, it tries to bite you depending on what type of fly it is. And I noticed in one teacher's classroom the fact that she had a fly swatter on the wall. I said, why do you have a fly swatter on your wall? She says, go to every classroom. I went to every classroom, and I think out of 10 classrooms, maybe 7 of them have fly swatters on the wall. And I said, why would a classroom have a fly swatter? Are the flies that bad? Are they that much of a nuisance? And the principal was there. He said, with a nod, yes, absolutely, they're a problem. The fact that local teachers can't teach without having to worry about the remnants of chicken farms is astronomically worrisome to me. If I'm sitting in a classroom and my students have to fight insects in what should be relatively a clean, safe, uninfected, uninfested classroom, that's a problem. That's a public educational, public health problem that needs to be dealt with. Most people talk about chicken farms as being part of this process of the government approving or not approving farms in local communities. No, it's a matter of your 5-year-old in kindergarten not being able to play and interact with their teacher in a safe environment in a way that quite honestly may inhibit their education for the rest of their life. And when you think about it in those terms, in what way is this a safe, equitable, just environment? At this particular moment, it's not just about the environment, it's not just about education, it's really about having a place like Robeson County, getting the community to a place where we can collectively talk about what harms us. You know, people quietly every day in Robeson County, women quietly die of breast cancer. Men quietly die of prostate and colon cancer at rates that are astronomical, that are way higher than most other areas of North Carolina and the United States. Why is that? Decolonization doesn't happen only ideologically or in this kind of abstract world. It happens within people's bodies. Statistically, there are higher rates of cancer here in Robeson County than in a lot of different regions of this country. People shouldn't be experiencing cancer at the rates that they are, but they must, because there is no conversation about how they're bound up in these systems of medical, racial oppression. They have to suffer in silence. Their families gather by their bedside and they die at 50 or 55. If you look at the grid of pipelines or the grid of CAFOs or the grid of any type of environmental colonial reality across the country, they're all kind of patterned. You see systemic patterns. So it's easy, if you look at just the geography of how all this is set up, to connect this community, which is Robeson County and the Lumbee Indian community, with communities in the Dakotas, with communities in California. What's happening in Robeson County is connected to anthropogenic harm all over the United States and quite honestly all over the world. As you move over oceans which are dripping in plastic into different parts of South Asia, into different parts of South America, different parts of the African continent, you begin to see that the realities of environmental kind of suppression and oppression here in Robeson County are absolutely part of the same fabric of forest burning in South America, are part of the massive youth labor market in South Asia. It's all interconnected. We need to begin to have a conversation between people who can connect this really deep, complicated history with people's survival today. And we're not only talking about survival in a chicken plant or a hog plant where you can have your arm severed by a machine where animals are being butchered, but we're talking about people who, relationships between this deep knowledge of history and communities of people who really want to begin to protect the water and the soil and the land and the air and everything that is environmental in nature for their children and their grandchildren. We're starting to see not only trees that are disappearing, but large swaths of land where you couldn't have seen over the horizon 20 years ago. Now you can see miles down. It used to be known as a place of the pine cone, of the pine tree, and now it's a place of fields of wide open spaces that never really existed like they do today before. We want to fight for our home. We want to fight for not only a sense of location, but we want to fight for a sense to be able to drink water out of our grandma's well, which back 30, 40, 50 years ago was fine to drink out of the well. We weren't hurt by it. Now today we're getting these different messages. If I'm speaking strictly as a community member, we're getting these different messages that quite honestly, everything that we do to touch the place around us is potentially dangerous. So will young people leave? Will they go somewhere else? In the current kind of climate moment that we're globally in, so this moment of climate change, where can you go and not be affected is my question. And so I think people nowadays, early 2020 now, they've realized that if they're going to fight for something, if they're going to try to survive, it's got to be here in the place where we as a collective Native American community, and I'm speaking about the Lumbee community, where we collectively mean something.